We are ready.
Okay, great. Well, I hope you all can hear me fine, and that you can see my screen. My name is Anna Barfield. I'm the Global Practice Lead at the Aga Khan Foundation, and I'm based in Geneva, in Switzerland. As Alice knows, so today you guys are celebrating 10 years of SIDCN. I'm also celebrating my son's 5th birthday. So today is a very auspicious day for me as well. But really, such a pleasure to be here with you, and really so grateful to Alice for this invitation. This is exactly the kind of audience that we want to make aware of the Learning Hub, because indeed, as it says in the title of the presentation, this is a platform with free learning resources that you yourselves can use to strengthen your core skills, to strengthen your technical skills. And there are also resources that you might want to use in your programming, either as they are, or you might want to adapt them. But we can discuss all of that at the end. I actually would like to begin with kind of the backstory of the Learning Hub, because the story itself, I think, is quite a compelling one. So, quite often, I guess, when we think of innovation, we might think of places like this. You can see the slides moving, right? Alice, you can just nod. Great. Okay.
Yeah, Anna,
Uh, yeah.
sorry to
Sure.
interrupt. I can see like the presenter view rather than the full
Oh, you
screen
can. Oh
slides, just
dear.
to let you know.
Okay. That's not what you're supposed to be seeing. Hold on. Can you see it
Sorry,
now
thank you.
properly? Because I can't see it in the little window. That's why I was a bit worried that. Okay. Now you can see it in full
Yeah,
screen view.
that's full screen. Thank
Okay,
you.
much better. Thank you so much. Thanks, Sarah. So, anyways, quite often, I guess, when we think of innovation, or when people think of innovation, digital innovation, they'll think of, California, they'll think of Silicon Valley. When they imagine innovators, they'll be thinking of a guy, usually it's always a guy, isn't it? Like in a garage, sort of tinkering away, experimenting. They might be an engineer, they might be a high school dropout, but there is a kind of a picture that we comes up in our mind, right, when we say digital innovation. But of course, as we all know, as we especially all know in this group, that is utter nonsense, because innovation happens absolutely everywhere. And it happens and is led by people of so many different backgrounds. And the story that I'm going to tell you today, the story of the Learning Hub, is actually a story of digital innovation that started in Maputo, in Mozambique. And so what happened there? Well, the Aga Khan Foundation, the organization that I work for, works with and supports tens of thousands of civil society organizations around the world, including in Africa and including in Mozambique. And this is 10 years ago, we had a project in Mozambique that was focused on strengthening civil society organizations and actors. And as we were sort of interacting with them and learning from them, one thing that we understood is that they were really frustrated with how capacity building and how training was designed for them. So the trainings that they were invited to participate in didn't really meet their expectations. And in which sense? Well, they felt that the content of the training was often not adapted to their local circumstances, to their local realities, to their local culture. They felt that the content wasn't practical enough, so that they didn't know how to apply it once they went back to work. They felt that it took too long, quite simply. So often they were invited to go to training that was 5 days long, where they would, be sitting very passively, also in a kind of conference room or in a classroom, listening to a presenter, and they just felt that they weren't fully engaged in the learning process. So that was, amongst other things, these were essentially the frustrations that they had, and so what we thought we'd do was sit down with a group of 7 kind of very well-established NGOs, CSOs in Mozambique, and try to come up with a better model, a different model. And so this picture that you see here is from that human-centered design workshop that we ran with Mozambican partners at that time. There was also another foundation that was involved in the process as well, La Caixa Foundation from Spain. And so essentially what we asked together was how might we redesign training for civil society organizations in Mozambique such that it is more effective, more adapted to the needs of the target audience, so that it's more impactful, and frankly, so that it's more fun and more engaging. And so what emerged from that workshop were some prototypes. And here you can see some pictures of those initial prototypes from again from 10 years ago, where our partners in Mozambique said, "Look, we want two things. One is we want to be able to learn online in our own time, and we want to learn from video-based resources." And so, and again, we want to do that in a self-paced manner when it's convenient for us. And then when we come to a workshop, and we do want to come to a workshop, we want that workshop to be 1 day long, not 5 days long. And we want it to be based on active learning principles. We want it to be engaged in the learning process. We want to learn from the facilitator. We want to learn from each other. We want to apply what we learned in the videos in a kind of practical session. And so essentially, the model that they came up with was a blended learning model, a kind of flipped classroom model, if you like, where the content that they again, where the theoretical content was transmitted through video. And then in the workshop, really the focus was on developing skills, strengthening skills, peer learning, and really building, again, capacity and skills that could be applied in the workplace and in program implementation. So again, these are some of the pictures from from that very, very early workshop in 2014. So what's interesting about this time, though, is that this is again, now when we say blended learning and we say flipped classroom, we've all heard of these terms. We all know the Coursera's and the edX's and the Udacities and the Udemy's and these types of platforms. But at that time, this was really brand new. So Coursera had been established actually, most of these big platforms had been established in a year or two prior. So it was really interesting, actually, that going into this HCD human-centered design workshop, we didn't know what the local partners there were going to come up with. But actually, what they came up with was something kind of very similar to these digital platforms that were emerging, but also had some significant differences, right? The difference being that most of these platforms have content in English, but our partners in Mozambique said, "Look, we don't want content in English. We want content in Portuguese, and actually, we want content in Mozambican Portuguese, which is the language that we speak. We don't want sort of Western or American instructors. We want Mozambican instructors who understand our context, understand our culture, understand our needs." We want to be able to access these resources offline as well, because again, there are so many constraints even today with kind of bandwidth and devices, and let alone 10 years ago, et cetera, et cetera. So there were some fundamental differences. One of the big differences also was that they really wanted to make sure that they had the opportunity to meet synchronously and to learn from each other and not just be learning online. Now, the important thing is to know is that this is, when we had this workshop with these partners from the Mozambican, there were 7 Mozambican NGOs that were involved in this process. What we learned from them also is that, this is all well and good. This is for our own capacity building, but we have a mandate. We also have a mandate as very well established organizations, and actually, such as SIDCN kind of has this mandate as well. We have the mandate and the responsibility to train other smaller CSOs and NGOs in our country. And so we don't just want to consume content and learn. We also want to cascade that content. And frankly, we want to create our own content and share our expertise and our lived experience with our partners in our networks and all the hundreds of organizations that we support. So again, keep in mind, this was 2014. So we had to figure out together with them everything, because we'd never done this kind of content development before. So we had to figure out how to design, develop, and disseminate this type of content. So already kind of it's quite a tall order in the sense that you have to figure out what goes in the videos, what goes in the in-person session? Where does the technical expertise lie? How do you translate that into a script for video that is engaging, so that people don't switch off after a couple of minutes? Where do you find the people who are going to be in these videos, right? And what kind of training do they require, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So lots and lots of questions to answer. So we had to figure all of that out. And then on top of everything, because we understood that our, again, partner organizations in Mozambique wanted to create their own content, we understood, okay, this has to be done in the lowest cost possible way. Sorry, that's not a very good sentence, but in a very, very low cost fashion indeed. And so how do we do that? So we started like that guy in his garage that I showed you at the beginning. We started tinkering, we started experimenting, and trying different things out. And so this is a photo from, again, 10 years ago. As you can see, it's not a studio, a soundproof studio or anything like that. It's just a room. We have minimal equipment. There's no proper tripod, as you can see. There's no teleprompter. There's a kind of green screen, a few lights, a laptop, and a camera. Incidentally, the guy who is standing in front of the camera is a student who was collaborating with us, and he's got an interesting story as well. So anyway, so this was kind of some of the first iterations of this. I don't know if you can see in his hand, he's actually holding a mouse. So in order for him to read script from a laptop, not a teleprompter, he has to be scrolling through the script as he's reading it. So it requires quite a lot of coordination and concentration. But anyway, it's like we have to figure out a way to do this. So that was one of the first things we tried. And this is what one of the first courses, this is just a screen cast, obviously, but like a screenshot. But this is one of the first courses from Mozambique, what it looked like. That's that guy that I just showed you. And as you can see, maybe like in his hand, he's holding a mouse. But with time, well, we felt, okay, this is good, but we can improve a lot. So we started tweaking things and again, testing and learning. As you can see here, there is no more mouse in the narrator's hand. The quality of the graphics is better. And again, this is somebody who is not a professional actor or a professional journalist or narrator. He's a colleague of ours, somebody from one of the NGOs that we work with. This lady here, her name is Lena. She actually works for the Aga Khan Foundation in Mozambique. She leads our civil society program in Mozambique, and so she appears in a bunch of our courses. Even that green screen that you saw a bit earlier, we realized actually we don't need this at all. A clean white wall will do. And so this is how these courses were filmed. And so essentially, after a couple of years, we ended up having a whole host of different courses, of different blended learning courses on topics that are of relevance to Mozambican civil society organizations. So this is in Portuguese, but I mean, most of this is, I think, really understandable. I don't speak any Portuguese, but you can understand from here that there is, corporate fundraising, developing a communications plan, resource mobilization, monitoring and evaluation, facilitation skills, communication, proposal development, community engagement, effective presentation. So like financial management, all of these topics. And basically what we did is, using the model that I just showed you, developed courses that have about 1.5 to 2 hours of video-based content broken down into very small segments. So first segmented into, let's say, 3, 4, 5 modules, and then each of those modules is broken down into 3 to 4 minute long video lessons where there's a narrator appearing, there is footage from again from the local environment and examples from Mozambique. Now, of course, this is not just a story about Mozambique. It started in Mozambique in 2014, but our colleagues in different countries, as they started hearing about this model, they said, well, actually, we'd really like to have to localize some of this content for Egypt, for Egyptian CSOs, and we'd like to have it in Arabic, and we'd like to kind of not just add subtitles, but refilm the content. So this is exactly what, this is a picture from Egypt. Likewise, our colleagues in India, this is filmed on a rural campus in Gujarat. They also wanted to film their own content in Hindi and Gujarati, so we helped them with that. This is in Portugal, again, colleagues from Portugal who wanted to adapt the content to their to their situation, to their circumstances, and Tajikistan, and many, many other countries. And so essentially what happened was, at that time, we didn't have a platform. We just had all this content that suddenly we were creating, we were helping colleagues create, and we were helping colleagues localize, and then they were developing their own content with just some coaching from us. And then, they would develop a course about irrigation techniques in Hindi, or I don't know, problem solving in Arabic, and all this kind of stuff. And so we thought, hold on a second, we have to make this content available somewhere, so that even our colleagues, so that they know that this exists. And then as we were thinking, it's like, this doesn't make sense to share this content internally only. This should be a global resource, so that other practitioners around the world can benefit from it as well. And so that's why we created the Learning Hub, which is a digital learning platform. I'll share the link in a second, that offers at this point more than 500 different learning resources that practitioners such as yourselves, such as the people you work with, the people you support, can access anytime from any device, and completely free of charge. And so what you can find on the Learning Hub today are, the courses that I showed you in Mozambique and Portuguese. Well, we now have versions of these courses, and I know this is an Anglophone audience in front of me, and I understand many of you are in Africa, or you support organizations working in Africa. So I've selected content that's tailored to that context. But there are courses on civil society strengthening. So here you can see some examples. So civil society strengthening, organizational development. So as you can see, there's a course on organizational strategy development, on how to conduct gender analysis, on community engagement, et cetera, and many more. Proposal development, always important. Many of these courses were filmed in Kenya, not all, but many of them were filmed in Kenya. So all the footage is from Kenya, with a Kenyan narrator speaking in English. And so it goes. Civil society is like the main topic. So that's why I'm showing you all of these. There is also, I think this is interesting for this audience. If there are organizations or people on this call who work for organizations that support education or support early childhood development, there's a wealth of resources created, and it's not just courses, by the way. It's instructional videos. There's toolkits. There are podcasts. There are even immersive kind of 360-degree videos. All sorts. We're kind of very format agnostic, as long as the quality is good. So there are resources related to ECD and education. These are all related to East Africa, or filmed in East Africa. There are resources related to type of agriculture, food security, and climate resilience. So related to topics such as regenerative farming, for example, or kind of microprocessing. There are health-related resources, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. As I said, all in all, more than 500 learning resources related to all of these different topics. There's content in a number of different languages, or the vast majority of it, I wouldn't say all, but vast majority produced locally. And so, again, a lot of content produced in Kenya. Then also we have a lot of content produced in India, in Portugal, in Mozambique, obviously, some from Pakistan, some from Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan. But I think probably the African content, which again is really strong, is probably most relevant to you. Importantly, and I'll end in a minute. Importantly, the content that the course content that you can find on the Learning Hub is certified. So if you or anybody else goes to the Learning Hub, you need to create a free account to access the course content, so that the system in the back can track your progress, quite simply. But again, it's all free. If and when you complete a course, you get a certificate of completion. And just know that many of the civil society strengthening and organizational development courses I just showed you are now also externally certified through the CPD Institute in the UK. So these are kind of externally verifiable certificates as well. In terms of numbers, where are we now? So after 3 years of launching the platform itself, the Learning Hub, we have more than 72,000 unique learners from pretty much every country in the world. And it varies a bit in time, but Kenya, India, and Pakistan are consistently at the top. And then at the moment it's Kenya, then other times it's Pakistan, other times it's India. We don't always know why, because as you can imagine, we don't have much of a marketing budget at all. So I kind of rely on contacts like this and events like this to share to share the story of the Learning Hub. And incidentally, we met Alice at ADEX, which was mentioned earlier. We had a little stand for the Learning Hub, and we were there to raise visibility for the platform. Importantly, since you are also a group of organizations, all this content is co-created with other organizations. And so we are always open to partnerships, whether it's around content dissemination, content localization, content creation. That's something that we are always open for. And I do hope that you will reach out to me if this is of interest, and I certainly hope that it is. So here you have the link to the Learning Hub. I'll pop it into the chat as well. And also I'll pop the link to our LinkedIn account so that you can follow us on LinkedIn and kind of stay up to date on what's new as well. So thank you. I don't know, Alice, whether you had some particular questions for the audience following the discussion. I'd love to just hear reactions and any questions that you all might have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think we're going to open the floor for any questions. We have around, I think, 7 minutes for questions. And I'm going to stop the recording, so everything is just for our communication.